Yeah, exactly.
But I got a deal for you.
The white shirt back here.
Welcome, everyone. It's now about 6:31 p.m., and I'd like to call to order the Fenton Township Board meeting on this 19th day of July 2022. I would ask everyone to please stand for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Gopal, will you lead?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance and wisdom and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. We ask for peace in the warring countries. Bless the sick, injured, and the dead as we pray for an end to the conflicts that exist today. We ask this in your most holy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, Mark. Clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Lorraine,
Present.
Reed,
Here.
Cotter,
Present.
Krug is present, Kessler,
Here.
Gopal.
Here.
And Tucker is late as we expect.
Okay. All right, I'd also
You
like...
have 6 members present.
All right. Thanks, Bob. I'd like to note for the record that Township Attorney Jack Belzer, Operations Manager Tom Broker, our Ordinance Enforcement Officer Pat Shaw, Zoning Administrator Mike Dean, and Fire Chief Ryan Volz are present. All right. Additionally, via Zoom, we have our Assessor Julia Wilson, and Township is the one on the bottom.
Can't read that. I don't know if that's one.
I can't.
John McKean.
Okay.
All right. Well, our township engineers are not currently on Zoom, but we will move on. Tom, will you detail the procedures for those attending tonight's virtual meeting?
Yes, to the members of the public attending tonight's meeting in person or via Zoom, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded to be shown on public access television, Spectrum Channel 191. Recorded meetings are also posted on the Fenton Area Community Television YouTube channel. For those attending via Zoom, we ask that you keep your microphone muted until we reach portions of the meeting where public comment is allowed. For tonight's meeting, there is a public hearing on the Mosquito Abatement Special Assessment, during which public comment will be accepted. All other public comment will be taken near the end of the meeting. Meeting materials are available for download on the Township's website, www.fentontownship.org.
Thanks, Tom. All right, moving on to the first business in order is the approval of the agenda. Are there any requests to amend tonight's agenda? Hearing none, a motion is in order to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Krug votes yes. Cotter,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Gopal.
Yes.
Tucker,
Here, yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, the agenda stands approved as presented. All right, tonight we have a presentation. This is his second presentation we have with us tonight. Our Genesee County Sheriff, Christopher Swanson. He's going to give us a second quarter report.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, to everybody here, everybody watching, to the board. We appreciate, as always, the long-term relationship that we have with the Sheriff's Office as a patrol contract. It's been the mid-90s since we've been your police department, and for that we're very grateful. We look forward to a long, long relationship by doing the things we're doing now, and that is telling you, the public, what these officers do on a everyday basis. As I came down here, I talked to Deputy Riggs. Deputy Riggs came from Pontiac Fire Department. We hired him about 9 years ago. He's a licensed paramedic, but he has been transitioned into patrol. We had a death in the family of Deputy Bill now, so Riggs came in 4 hours early. He's working 2 p.m. to 6 a.m. That's a long shift. And we do that, and I say that because your deputies down here love Fenton Township. They don't like to be moved out of here. We have legends like Pat Shaw and Gatika that I think that you would probably cancel the contract if we try to take them out, because we entrust our deputies to build relationships with the folks of Fenton Township and the board, and that's what works well. And I appreciate coming here every quarter to give an update. I'm actually taking this example and doing the same thing to our other 8 contracts, including Vienna and Atlas Township. But I think the big thing is what's been happening in the summer. Fenton and the lakes are a big deal. And I'm thankful to say that so far we've had 0 fatalities. We've had a near drowning at 10 p.m. on 4th of July. It was a 22-year-old female. She was not from Fenton Township. She wanted to commit suicide. She went into the lake, and our patrol deputies that responded in the Marine Division talked her out of the lake. She became combative, and we took her to Hurley Hospital for a psych evaluation, and we're working with her family. But that was the only near drowning that we had. On the holiday weekend, the Marine Division that has 2 brand new boats, we have 9 deputies that are seasonal deputies. They had 193 safety stops. We didn't write any tickets other than 1 drunk driving, where a guy took and ran over a dock, and if it hadn't been a dock, it would have been a fatality. He was not only non-cooperative, he refused the breathalyzer. We had to get a search warrant for his blood, and he was ultimately charged when the blood comes back with OWI. We had a dog on 4th of July weekend that went after some birds and found himself stuck in the mud and drowning, believe it or not. And the 2 Marine deputies jumped in the water and they saved the dog. I thought that was a great story. When it comes to what we're doing on a regular basis, I know Sergeant Pritchard, who's your sergeant assigned to the township, you only pay 60% of a detective for all the cases that are generated in Fenton Township. Atlas Township shares the other 40%. But the work that Sergeant Pritchard does is unbelievable. And we have a built-in system that even though you pay for 60, you get the services of everybody to make sure that what we do, we put solid cases together, we hold people accountable, and we follow through using our township attorney, Jack Belzer. That being said, on average, the deputies in Fenton Township drive 7,000 miles a month all over the township. They average, when it comes to police calls, anywhere from 180 to 265 police calls, 911 calls per month. Now, to put that in perspective, we live in a great community. There's 36 square miles in Fenton Township. Most recently, I took over operations in downtown Flint, 4.8 miles. So if you look at 4.8 miles in Flint and 36.6 miles over here in Fenton Township, on average, we do 365 calls in those 5 miles, and you're averaging about 185 out here. So Fenton Township's a great place to live. We are very proactive in our patrols. We have a lot of traffic coming up US 23. There's a lot of new business coming in. The Thompson Road corridor, the business district, is just booming. We want to make sure there's people kept safe. It's still interesting that Thompson Road to the rest area stretch is probably one of the most dangerous stretches of road in all of Genesee County. We have more crashes, especially during the winter months, and that strip, a lot of it is because of the wind shear. On 4th of July weekend, we had a motorcycle get off at Thompson Road, and was going too fast, rolled at Thompson at 23, broke his neck, and he's in critical condition. So we still are doing significant traffic enforcement there, but it's just a dangerous stretch of road based on numbers. Be very cautious. The last thing, and I'll open up for any questions, is the business of law enforcement. We are a great value, and I say that because of our 9 contracts. We want to give the service to the customer, and you are the customer, to the best ability. So giving a great service, but yet being under budget or at budget is the key. And so when you look at, Mr. Broker can validate, our billings, we're about 48% through the budget, and we're $1,400 over budget overall. When that budget is $785,000 and some change for policing, and we're at about $1,400, we're doing really, really well. And that is so many variables in there, whether it's overtime or vacations or sick leave or workman's comp or whatever it is. A budget is a moving target, but we certainly don't like to go over. But $1,400 in a $785,000 contract is certainly doable. And of course, we work hand in hand with your business agent, I call him, Tom Broker, and we've had a great relationship. If there's an issue, or if there's a bill that is questionable, county controller, they work hand in hand, and we want to make sure that we continue to do that. So, Mr. Supervisor, that is my report over the last 3 months. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Sheriff. Is there any questions from the audience at all for the Sheriff? How about from the board? Chris?
I would just like to make a comment that I appreciate the work that Chris is doing with Ghost and what I watch the videos and they're fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
think that the residents of Genesee County are very lucky. I think we have one of the best sheriffs in the country. You know, there was a lot of turbulence over the last 3 years. Our city didn't see that, and we have a great leader.
Thank you.
And I think he's just getting started. So, Chris,
Thank you.
it was an ask to have you come here. It's a privilege to have you come here.
Thank you as well.
And talk to our residents, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
If I could.
Yes.
Having done municipal work for a lot of years, a lot of different municipalities, this budget and contract we have with the sheriff's department is great for the township. You're way, way, way ahead as opposed to trying to hire a whole police department and everything. Financially, and they do good work besides, but financially, this is like a giant benefit to the township.
We're negotiating with them, so they might want.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's on record.
Slow down a
It's
little
on
bit.
record.
I didn't know about that.
No, I don't disagree. As a township resident myself, I don't disagree. I'm very, very, very pleased with the work product, and we're very thankful.
Let's make sure Jack doesn't come to the meeting.
Again,
Thank you.
we're very lucky to have you.
As well. Thank you. I'll see you next quarter.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, moving on. The next business in order is the meeting minutes. Included in the packet are the minutes for the July 5th regular meeting. Are there any corrections or requested revisions to the meeting minutes? Hearing none, the meeting minutes stand approved as presented. Moving on to the next business in order is expenditures. Are there any questions from the board regarding any of the invoices? George or Tucker? None? All right, a motion is in order to approve the expenditures totaling $115,915.83 for payment.
So moved. Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Reed,
Yes.
Gopal.
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Kessler.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Krug votes yes. Cutrick.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, the expenditures stand approved as presented. Next business order is public hearings. This is on the Mosquito Abatement Special Assessment District. Operations Manager Broker, will you please explain?
Yes, as we've discussed at previous meetings, a new law went into effect in 2020, the Public Act 273 of 2020, which changes the process to be able to do special assessment districts for mosquito abatement services. So under the statute, before putting the issue before the voters, we must have a special assessment public hearing, which is what we're doing tonight. And then the board can then move forward by adopting a resolution to tentatively, to move the process forward and approve the ballot language. So included in the packet is an overview of our current program, the 2022 program with APM mosquito control, along with an estimated 6-year budget. So just using that as a framework for the ballot proposal, to do a 6-year proposal, we could ask the voters to approve up to $25 per parcel, which is actually less than what was approved in 2016. So that's the basis of the information. The decision on awarding a contract can come later. We're looking to set the proposal because the deadline to get the proposal on the ballot is in the middle of August for November's ballot. And so we're looking to get the proposal put together based on the estimated costs, and then it gives us more time to work on the contract after that.
All right, thanks, Tom. All right, at this time, I will now open up the meeting for public comment on the proposed Mosquito Abatement Special Assessment District. Is there anyone here that is in person that would like to address the board? Anyone here? Yes, sir. If you wouldn't mind, if you could walk up to the podium, give us your name. And all I would ask is that you keep your comments to about 3 minutes or less.
My name's Bob Pattison. I live down the street on Windsor Beach. I've lived here for 42 years. The notice went out with the taxes about the mosquito abatement program, but I wonder if there's exceptions, or rather than every parcel being charged the same. As it turns out, I own in a plat that has very small lots. I think they're 45 by 95, something like that. They're not buildable, but there's a legal description, and I would be subject to the same thing that maybe a 160-acre farm would be, because it's one description. And I think there should be some sort of, maybe you could aggregate these lots to a minimum amount or something that would be subject to these things. Doubtless there's other people that are in the same boat as far as these smaller lots. I'd ask the board to review that and maybe address that problem.
Tom, I mean,
Just combine them.
That would solve the problem.
that would solve the problem.
Yeah.
That's what
How
I was
many
gonna say.
lots do you have, sir?
I don't know the exact number, but it's a significant number.
So if you combine them for tax purposes, the assessment is based on tax parcel IDs, not lot legal descriptions. So if you talk to the assessor, who's over my shoulder, and over your shoulder too for that matter, they have a process where you can combine them into a single tax parcel ID. And it would affect this, and I don't know if the fire assessment works that way or not, but it could save you money on some other assessments that are done on per parcel
Well,
basis.
you know, I haven't reviewed the exact number, but there's a significant amount. I have talked with the assessor about this also.
But what I'm saying
And
is whatever
she
that number
recommended
is,
showing up at the meeting and
Whatever-
stating my case.
whatever the number is, 10, 2, you can reduce it to 1. That's up to you.
Well, that's a two-edged sword, tax-wise, but I don't want to argue. I just think it would behooves them to have, let's say, a minimum square footage that you would be assessed.
Okay. Thanks, Bob.
All right.
Appreciate it. Is there anyone else in the audience that's currently present that would like to address the board? Yes, ma'am. Go up to the, just state your name.
Courtney Prout, and I am an environmental educator. I don't think that we should put together a township-wide abatement. I think it should be up to the homeowner, and we should find a different use for that $177,000. Maybe find a more permanent solution rather than doing the same thing over and over. Mosquitoes are gonna be mosquitoes, and it should be up to the homeowner to abate them or mitigate their risk by reducing stagnant water, or even buying mosquito repellent clothing, or doing their part to protect themselves. And the township can use that money for other purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board?
Hello, my name is Mary Ann Sharp, and I've lived in Fenton Township since 2015. As far as I know, they've always done the mosquito. I have more questions. One is, has that been something that's been part of the budget, and now it's different because the costs are rising? And also, I have a little concern with the environmental because of bees. I always have a balance between, you know, the what's good for people, but also for the environment, as she said, with wondering if it's, you know, harming the bees. I don't like mosquitoes either, but if it's going to be, I just want to know how much the cost is going to be, like per household, or you know, in this time and season when everything is going up and budgets are stretched. I just want to be cognizant of the fact that, you know, people are struggling, and, you know, the bottom line for me as I'm a widow is, what's it going to cost me?
$25 is the answer
so-
to the question.
What's that?
$25 a year, up to, and that's a reduction from 30.
Okay.
So in the sense that things are always going up, this is the exception to that rule. So
Right.
the cap on it is 25 a year for up to the next 6 years.
It's important to also understand this is really a continuation of the program we've had in place for nearly 40 years.
Okay.
It's not something new. The process has changed, so that's why we're having the hearing before putting it on the ballot. but it's a continuation of the same program, and Mr. Tucker's right, the voters approved up to 30 back in 2016. Now, if you look at your 2021 tax bill, there was nothing on there, because of some timing issues, we just used the surplus to cover this year. We had money
Okay.
left over, didn't have to assess it, and then we get back into rotation here. So if it goes as expected, you won't really see a change, and instead of $30 on your tax bill, it would be up to 25 or maybe less.
Okay, thank you.
For further clarity, the money does not come from the general fund. So if you don't spend it on mosquito, it doesn't mean you can spend it on something else. There's actually a special assessment for that purpose, and if you don't have that purpose, you don't have that money.
If you have a concern and you raise bees or harvest honey, you can contact the carrier and create no spray areas. If, you know, you'll see a few in the area, some of it is because of that, others is a person has an allergy or something like that with the spray, but they will create a no spray. Now, the wind, yep, it could take it on there, but between one sideline and the next, they don't spray.
All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just did want to mention that, I mean, just from my reading of the packet, and I tried to research this, but I'm not a biologist or chemist or anything, but it says we're treating with BTI, which is a bacteria, Bacillus thuringiensis, I don't know. And at least in our packet, it was saying that it's only supposed to have, shown only to be toxic to mosquitoes, black flies, and closely related species. Now, we could be wrong about, like, I'm not saying, you know, I can't guarantee that information is true, but we aren't intending to cause, you know, they've kind of selected this with the intent of hopefully not causing too much environmental impact while still keeping the mosquito population down.
And the program is subject to approval by the state.
Right.
And so this company's been in the business a long time.
And by the program, you mean what they spray and in what concentration?
Everything, what they use.
Every aspect
you
of
know,
it.
Right.
The whole thing has to be submitted to the state, and they have to sign off on it.
Has there been any studies that shows the efficacy of this mosquito program?
I'm sure there has. I mean, the state, I would
I
expect that they're doing research on it for the safety of the residents of the state of Michigan. So I'm sure that the science is there, and that's why the product is being chosen, that's being chosen. So, can I lend affirmation to that? No. But I'm sure.
As far as an overall assessment of whether it works or not, I think if you talk to neighboring communities that don't have it, I think you'll find their stories are much different than ours.
And just one thing I would say is that when you talk about individuals, if we left it up to individuals, you could have neighbors on both sides that have wetlands that decided they're not going to spend the money, and you're sitting in the middle of them treating your small area. To me, it is only beneficial if we did the whole township, because there's areas that they go out in that nobody would go out in. Even if I owned the property, I'm not going to go out and spray it. And so I know that I've lived here for almost 4 decades, and mosquitoes have never been a problem. And what's nice about this company also is if you're having a party or you're having a mosquito issue, you can call them and they'll actually come to your property and do a respray.
Can I ask who the company is?
APM Mosquito Control.
Anybody that's present that would like to address the board on just this issue? Hearing none, I'll move on to Zoom. Is there anybody?
I'm sorry. If you go on our website, you're able to get all their documentation. I'm looking at mosquitoes and public health, the effect on other insects, so it's all right there. You can get some of the research. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Just moving on to, is there anyone that's attending this meeting via Zoom that would like to address the board on just the mosquito abatement special assessment?
Both of them are muted. There's Don McKeon and a P. I apologize if it's flat the name Luong, that's how I pronounce it. You have to unmute if you want to have a comment. If you don't unmute soon, we'll assume you don't want to comment. There's Don.
Yeah, I sent an email in, this afternoon, just stating, about farmland. Our property was farmland with no residents, so there's no value to us to have mosquito spray. And I think there should be exceptions for farmland.
That email was attached to the end of the item in the packet that's on there.
Right. Okay. I have read it. Thank you. Is there anybody else that is attending via Zoom that would like to address the board?
No comment for long.
Thank you. All right, I will now close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the board? I think the board has given their views. Christine?
So, if I'm not mistaken, I just want to clarify the process. So, this is the public hearing, and then we would eventually approve a resolution. If that happens, then it goes on the ballot. And so when you vote, then the residents will be able
Residents
to
still
vote
get to
whether or
vote.
not they want it or not.
Correct.
Okay. I just
This
wanna
is-
make sure everybody knows that it's not just us making the
That's good
decision.
clarification.
It is
This
gonna
just
go on the
moves
ballot.
us along.
Right.
Moves it along.
You're right,
The
Chris.
resolution is in the packet for board consideration. Given the timing, it either need to be approved tonight or at the next meeting at the very latest. In order, I'd rather get it submitted early in case they have any issue.
We chose to go early.
There's no, when Mundy Township did theirs, they had to go back and redo their language because the county didn't like it for some reason. So I'd like to keep that cushion if we can.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing none, resolution number 2022-19. Clerk Krug, will you please present the resolution?
Yes. Resolution 2022-19 tentatively approves the scope of service for the program and the revised estimated cost of approximately $155,000 per year. Easy for me. Declares the township's intent, subject to voter approval, to create a mosquito abatement special assessment district, which would include all real parcels within the township and each lot within a mobile manufactured home community within the township. Places the issue of mosquito abatement special assessments on the November 8th, 2022 ballot. Approves the ballot language as provided in Exhibit A. You can also get that off the website. And rescinds any conflicting resolutions. I'll move the resolution.
Second.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Contract,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Group votes yes, Gopel,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
resolution passes.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the next business order is reports. Tonight we have Ordinance Enforcement. It's a second quarter report sent in by Pat Shaw, our Ordinance Enforcement Officer. I'm sure we've all reviewed that report in our packets. Are there any questions from the board at all?
So I want to know a little more about the riparian violation.
Residents on Tory Road had 5 boats at their dock, and only one of them was registered to the homeowner, so the other 4 don't belong there.
Right.
Sent a letter to ask them to remove them, and they didn't, so a ticket was issued in court.
Thank you.
Just because probably, if, just for those attending, riparians, most of people in Fenton Township live or near a lake, and basically what the code enforcement officer was talking about is that if you have riparian rights or live on a lake, that you can only have a boat that is registered in your name at your dock. So just to clarify that for anybody. All right.
I'd also like to ask, so do we have any more information about there was one, looks like there's one in April, a littering ordinance violation?
Though that was a blight, I think it was a blight ordinance.
Okay, there's
And it was a new build, well, construction site.
Okay, I was just curious.
So, yeah, it was just the dumpster had to be emptied and the lot had to be cleaned up, and which it was, so he complied with it.
Okay, yeah, glad to know that. I guess I was concerned, obviously this board passed a littering ordinance, which I strongly disagree with, which banned placing paper or many other things on someone's house, and I've started to get these, these normal wall hangers that political campaigns do, including one from Dylan Pascarolo today, who's a Republican candidate for state representative. Now, I think that's totally fine. I think that's part of free speech, but this board decided to criminalize that. And so I guess I'm hoping we never enforce that ordinance, but I just wanted to check and make sure we weren't. And I mean, obviously we do have prosecutorial discretion. Maybe the board will, hopefully choose to never enforce the ordinance, but yeah, that's why I was asking about the littering ordinance.
All right, thanks, Kate. All right, are there any other committee reports to be made to the board this evening? All right, hearing none, the next business order is communications. We have none this evening. Adoption, next business of order is adoption of ordinance. We have none. Unfinished business, none. All right, moving on to new business. We have proposed hirings for the Fenton Township Fire Department. I'm sure we've all reviewed the memo from Chief Bolts. We have the chief here tonight. Would you take over?
Well, this is something that doesn't happen very often. We have 3 individuals that have passed all the background checks, drug tests. They're ready to go to work, so we're looking for your approval to put them to work. And we're also doing something a little bit more, a little different now. We're now going to swear our firefighters in. I think it gives them a little bit more ownership of the township, and also it lets the township recognize who our new individuals are that are coming onto the fire department. So our 3 firefighters that we'll be recognizing will be Ryan Hines, Andrew Cox, and Matthew Adair. Now, Matthew Adair used to be on the department years ago when I first joined, and he took himself a little 20-year reprieve, and now he's back. So we welcome him back. Andrew Cox came from NACFA. He's a actual paramedic and a RN. So they're both trained, and we're happy to have them aboard. As well as Ryan Hines he is a Marine, and he has decided to go into the fire service. So we welcome all 3 of them.
All right, Chief. Are there any questions from the board? Chief, I have one question. We talk almost daily, but for the record, I know that when you first started, you were looking for about 12.
We need 10 more.
I just wanted to know what that number was. So this is a good start.
We're getting there.
And you're getting there.
Yes.
So, great job.
And we are looking for both male and female candidates.
Yeah, young and old, everybody. I mean, we prefer the young ones. It's a lot of hard work. But a lot of the retirees, we have a lot of retirees that retired from General Motors they decided to start a second career in the fire service. So they work just as hard. So we welcome everybody.
Appreciate it, Chief. All right. Okay, we're going to do each one of these separately, so I need a motion to approve the hiring of Ryan Haynes as a member of the Fenton Township Fire Department.
I'll move the motion.
Support.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Gopal.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Contract.
Yes.
Krug votes yes. Reed.
Yes.
Kessler.
Yes.
We have a new firefighter.
All right, the motion passes. I also need a motion to approve the hiring of Andrew Cox as a member of the Fenton Township Fire Department.
I'll move the motion.
Support.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Kessler.
Yes.
Krug votes yes. Reed.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Contract.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Gopal.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Last but not least, I also need a motion to approve the hiring of Matthew Adair as a member of the Fenton Township Fire Department.
I'll move the motion.
I'll support.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Contract.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Gopal.
Yes.
Kessler.
Yes.
Krug votes yes. Reed.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
We have another firefighter.
All right.
Motion passes.
All right, Chief, it's my understanding that you'd like to swear the 3 new firefighters in, so if you would like to get them up. Tom, I think you're going to do the honors.
Yep.
Absolutely. Also, just a quick note, as Monday, we had another phone call for another candidate. So we'll be interviewing the process with him and doing the drug test and everything else. So we may have a fourth, so.
Good.
Also, I believe Chief indicated that Mr. Cox is not here tonight, couldn't make the meeting. We
Okay.
do have two.
Two of them swear in?
You want to approach the front here? Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Ryan Hart,
Do solemnly swear.
do solemnly swear
To faithfully execute the duties
to faithfully execute the duties
of firefighter for the Charter Township of Fenton.
of firefighter for the Charter Township of Fenton,
To selflessly serve the citizens of Fenton Township
selflessly serve the citizens of Fenton Township
with respect, integrity, and excellence.
with respect, integrity, and excellence,
And to uphold the mission of the Fenton Township Fire Department,
and to uphold the mission of the Fenton Township Fire Department,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and the laws and ordinances of Fenton Township.
and the laws and ordinances of Fenton Township.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Great job, Chief. And welcome aboard. All right, moving next under new business is proposed amendments to the 2022 Fenton Township budget. Operations Manager Broka, will you review?
Yes, not a lot of significant amendments to the budget. We're only looking, quite a few changes to the general fund and one minor change to the solid waste management fund, but I'll go through the highlights quickly. The state treasury has reprojected their revenue sharing estimates for this year, which resulted in a $100,000 increase in our projected revenue. So that is reflected in the proposed amendment. We have in expenditures, $11,000 in contracted services web development for the annual cost of web hosting and maintenance that was not included in the original budget. We may see a reduction somewhere else. I think we had it in a different line item, but we'll monitor that. $18,700 increase to new vehicles in assessor department for the purchase of a newer vehicle that the board approved a few meetings ago. $6,000 increase to elections due to the compensation increase approved by the township board and the recent postage rate increase. $25,000 increase to new vehicles for inspection ordinance enforcement for the anticipated purchase of a newer vehicle for the ordinance enforcement officer later this year, where we've got a 2004 pickup with 96,000 miles. I think we're gonna have to retire that one. $100,000 increase to road projects due to higher than estimated project costs caused by significant increases to asphalt prices. Now, part of that increase is due to that, about 40% of it, or 60% of it. The rest of it was the board went ahead and approved projects over and above what we had initially budgeted. We just had not updated the budget yet. So those projects have been bid. They're ready to go with our approval on the increases. $7,000 increase in cemetery for the GIS cemetery mapping project, which the board previously approved. And $25,000 increase in museums for an extensive list of limited repairs and upgrades for the Podunk House Pioneer Museum property, including upgrading the electrical service, possibly a new well, and quite a large list of repair and maintenance issues that are overdue. So the net effect of the proposed amendments to the general fund is a decrease to the fund balance of about $80,000, but we're still projecting a net increase for the year of $282,000. And in the solid waste management fund, we're proposing a $50,000 increase to the expenditures due to the high price of fuel. The fuel surcharge provision of our contract has kicked in the last few months, and so we're projecting that as about a $50,000 increase for the year. And we're not proposing any amendments for the other funds listed on the memo.
Tom, what's behind the $7,000 increase for the GIS mapping, the cemetery?
That was the project that the board approved a few meetings back with North Arrow.
Well, I remember approving. Is that an increase of 7 or is it just the project?
No, that's just the project, because it wasn't in the original budget.
Okay.
It's been approved, we hadn't updated the budget yet. Yeah.
All right, are there any other questions or comments from the board? All right, you need a motion to adopt the amendments to the 2022 Fenton Township budget as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further questions? Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Tucker.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Kessler.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Contract.
Yes.
Krug votes yes, motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next under new business is resolution number 2022-20, proposed lake improvement special assessment district for Lake Panema, Squaw, and Tupper Lakes. And I'm sure we've all reviewed the memo in the packet. Operations Manager Broker, will you review?
Yes, as outlined in the memo, both Lake Panema and Squaw Lake intentionally lined up their last assessments so they'd end the same year. So we collected the final assessment for those two lakes on the December 21 tax bill, and which is paying for this year's treatments. Now they are requesting to create a combined special assessment district for not only Lake Panema and Squaw Lake, but also Tupper Lake and a portion of the Shiawassee River between Ripley Road and Tupper Lake. So, and to do a 5-year assessment, they've gotten a proposal from Progressive AE Architecture, and that's the basis for the cost estimate. And so the next step in the process is to schedule or adopt a resolution to schedule a public hearing on the creation of the new special assessment district for the next meeting.
Thanks, Bob. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Before we dive into it, Clerk Krug raised a good point. I am in this district, so this would have a financial impact on me, so I think it's probably appropriate that I not participate in this. But you all have to tell me that that's the right answer. Come on, Gopal.
So, we would need a motion to
We
allow.
need a motion.
Treasurer Tucker to
I checked with him
abstain.
first.
I will move that we excuse Tucker from these negotiations.
Support.
I'll vote no to see.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
I'm sorry, who seconded it?
I did. Thank you.
Kessler.
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Contract.
Yes.
Tucker can't.
Present.
I'll vote yes.
Aw. Come on, Bob, that's
so
not
unlike
you.
you, Bob.
Yeah, it's so unlike you.
Skate, John, skate.
It has to be unanimous.
I know.
All right. All right, is there any questions or comments from the board?
I think from an administrative standpoint, it makes sense. And
Oh.
I would think that the lakes would get treated at the same time, it just makes sense, they all flow together.
And the cost
and-
efficiencies that would come along with doing all
Absolutely.
three at the same time,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think with both Panema and Squaw having their program managed by Progressive, I think they've seen a lot of improvement in efficiency in that. We'll probably hear that at the hearing. I know Mark Shantz is here representing the association, but I know they've been pretty happy with it, and they just kind of expands it, but also consolidates it.
And you will note in the resolution, the vote tonight doesn't initiate it, it establishes a hearing, a public hearing in August on the improvements.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, resolution number 2022-20. Clerk Krug, will you please present the resolution?
Tentatively declares the township's intent to initiate a lake improvement program for Lake Panema, Squaw Lake, Tupper Lakes, and portions of the Shiawassee River. Tentatively designates the special assessment district to include all parcels of land with frontage on or legal access to Lake Panema, all parcels of land with frontage on Squaw Lake, all parcels of land with frontage on Tupper Lake, all parcels of land with frontage on the Shiawassee River between Tupper, schedules a public hearing for August 9th, 2022, directs the clerk to mail and publish the notice of public hearing as required by statute, resends any conflicting resolutions. I'll move the resolution.
I'll support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further question or discussion? Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Lorraine?
Yes.
Contract?
Yes.
Kessler?
Yes.
Gopal.
Yes.
Tucker.
Present.
That's right, I'm sorry, John. I vote yes. Reed?
Yes.
Resolution passes with one exception.
But he's present.
He's present.
He's present.
Can I borrow the agenda for, can I steal the floor for a second?
Absolutely.
Are we done with this item?
We're done with this item.
Mark, go stand at the podium, will you? I don't know if all of you know this gentleman or not, but if you drive through the township, there's a dude that's picking up trash everywhere you go.
We have to do this?
Yes,
Yep.
we have to do this. And I could've told you he was gonna hate me for doing this, but we're gonna do this. So, it doesn't matter, I see him a lot, cause he's in my neighborhood. He's that dude, you don't know who he is. You know, a lot of people honk at him, he is everywhere. He's along North Lake Road, he's out of, in front of our subdivision this weekend. I don't drive that much around the township that much, I got a day job. Every time I drive, Mark is out picking up trash. So, he's a good dude. He's a friend.
Keeps me young.
He was active when we had our road repaved in our subdivision. He was extremely active in that. As you can see, he's here tonight for the special assessment for the lakes. Mr. Shantz is a friend of our township, and I've told you this before. I will tell you this again. I thank you for everything that you do, and I wish we had more like you.
That's very kind, you, thank you.
Yeah. You can sit down.
Mr. Tucker, you do realize that you might be the recipient of a lot of township trash? Just thought.
Wouldn't be the first time, Bob.
All right,
Have you noticed a difference, Mark, at all with the ordinance, the littering ordinance? Have you noticed anything significant?
Well, again, as we spoke a year ago, most residents were not happy with having that free newspaper tossed on their driveways, having to pick it up. Those people picked up, disposed of it angrily. Some people just drove over it until it disintegrated, and that now is gone. So I think that standpoint worked. I understand the concerns that the one council person has, but I haven't thought that the township would go to that level anyway. It was really just to clean up litter. And I think most people would realize now, I mean, most heavy lifting's been done. The problem is we have a lot of visitors and they throw a lot of trash in. But yeah, the township's cleaner now. And I might not take off full responsibility, but the ordinance has certainly helped.
Thank you.
all right, the next business order is board comment. Is there anyone on the board who has additional comments or concerns? Any comments? Yes,
One
Bob?
thing, the group that pretty well takes care of the dog park is in the midst of bottle collection because they've realized they have to have a new well. If you have a bunch of cans or bottles in your garage, I'll get you a number you could call and they will come get them.
Bob, do you know the cost of the well? Have they researched the cost of what it's gonna?
Somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000, depending on what they run into.
Well, the dog park is a valuable addition to this township, so if anybody out there feels a little generous, those of you who are attending via Zoom that are here tonight, or that will watch this on YouTube, certainly the dog park could use some financial help, so if we need a well, we'll come up with $4,000.
They're trying.
All right, and I usually take mine to adopt a pet, but I'll drop off a bunch.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the next business order is public comment on agenda and non-agenda items. I will now open up the meeting for public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. Is there anyone that is attending the meeting tonight that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items? This is the time.
Joanne Sharp again. My first meeting, I want to commend you all for how efficient you are and how well. I appreciate what you're all doing for our township. I love our township. 2 nights ago, I was woken up at 2 a.m. with gunshots, like over 5 or 10 minutes. And I know the difference between fireworks and gunshots. And I live off of Torrey Road down from the golf course. And so I put on Shoot the Breeze, Facebook, see if anybody know, and I've heard anywhere for, someone said, well, sometimes at night people will go and shoot cranes and stuff off the golf course. But I don't know if anybody else heard it, but it was distinct. It was like bam, bam, little break, bam, bam. And, you know, my husband was a hunter, so it sounded like a 45 or it didn't even sound like a shotgun. But I wondered if anybody else had heard that. It was 2 nights ago. And it was 2 a.m. and it woke me up, and that's why I was like, that's kind of strange.
That would have been Sunday. Sunday night. I hadn't heard anything. Yes, sir.
How are you?
Good.
My name's Chad Rouse. I live in Alpine Shores, and I think you guys all have a copy of this. I've lived there for 12 years, and we had a vacant house. We got one on 13368 Pomona Drive, and we got one on 1254 Pomona Court. I've called for 12 years straight to get ordinances put on this house. It used to be a weed house. Officer Katika took care of that for me, but now we just have the house is crumbling. Foxes, raccoons, rats, skunks, feral cats. The pool's disgusting. You want us to pay the $25 for the mosquito when we live next to a pool that's mosquito is not helping us at all. These foxes are coming out. I called the DNR about the foxes. They said they can't do nothing about it. They said they don't eat, they're fine, they just eat rabbits and whatever, and I got a 4-pound dog, so I can't even let him out. And they're leaving like dead animals, and they're defecating in the front yards of all our houses. And if any of you guys live next to this house, I'm sure something will get done. This is nonstop, 12 years calling, nothing ever gets done. There's raccoons living up in the soffits. You go through the pool, soffits, they don't ever fix it. Everything's overgrown. Windows are busted out, foundation's crumbling. The lady that lived there about 3 years ago, she lived there for 2 weeks, said the black mold was so bad that she had to move out. So what's the black mold doing to like our neighborhood? It's going somewhere. It's not just staying in that house, so. And it's nonstop. We call you guys every week and month, and nothing ever gets done.
Well, Chad, I'll address that. I have a bi-weekly meeting with code enforcement, assessing, and the house did come up today, so we knew that you were probably going to be here or someone was going to be here regarding the house. So I asked our enforcement officer, Pat, to be here tonight so he can address this. Again, there's certain things the township can do, and there's certain things the township can't do.
Well, that's why we need to put ordinances in. If I got a $400,000 house, I shouldn't be living next to this. You know?
Okay. Pat, under current ordinance, can you come up and
He's been out there
address
numerous
his
times,
issues?
so.
Yeah, just, I was out there today, the things we addressed before in the past, there's been compliance with it. So once there's compliance, there's, until we start the process over again. So after the compliance, it usually lasts a while, and then after you're seeing it today, everything you're seeing.
Yeah, the compliance is usually the yards overgrown, which they mow once every 2 months. And that gets taken care of, but everything else, I don't know what the ordinances are, but like this pool, this is ridiculous. And then they have fountains up front, they're just filled with water. The mosquito guy actually came out because I had a party, sprayed the yard, and I said, can you go next door? And he took samples from the ponds up front, and they're just filled with mosquito larvae. So he actually threw tablets in the pool to help out, but, I mean, he shouldn't be doing that.
Well, concerning when I went there today, we're gonna try to go to a dangerous building ticket.
Yeah, we discussed that. We discussed that, and I think we decided to move in that direction, right?
That is correct. That is correct.
So, again, it was only brought to my attention, I think, about a month ago.
Yeah.
But we are taking it seriously, but again, there's only so much the township's limited to do without creating another ordinance. And it sounds like Pat has reason to move forward.
Yes.
on condemnation, right?
So where does it go from there, though? Because the black mold on the inside, that
It
needs to
goes
be
to
taken care
court.
of.
It would go to court, correct, Pat?
Yeah, the ticket gets issued, just, I have to write up the ticket, do the report, and then it's a packet, and I give it to, Jack, our attorney, and he signs it, the form warrant. It gets turned into the court, and the court date would be Friday, August 12th. That's our next court date, in Fenton Township, at the Fenton District Court, in front of Judge's Gate.
Then what do they gotta do, fix all this? Because, I mean, the foundation's crumbling, the windows are falling out of the place. There's no way they're gonna fix this thing. Yeah, the roof's got holes in it, it's leaking everywhere. I mean, the amount of animals over there is just out of control.
I understand.
'Cause
Pat,
they all live
can you
underneath
just
the crawl
address
space.
this? So,
Yeah.
Jed, I'm not trying to cut you off.
No,
I just
that's
wanna
fine.
make sure that
Yeah.
I completely understand. I'm just saying that,
Right, I'm certain.
what is the process you're gonna, and how is that gonna move forward with Jack, and how long is it gonna take? Because I'm sure there are others here that
Right.
are here for this issue.
I was out there today, walked the house, took pictures of everything, of all the foundation, the windows, the deck,
Soffit.
the pond out, the little pool,
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Yeah.
The pond. I took pictures of it all today. That all gets put in with the report, so when the report goes in front of the judge, he reads my report, then he goes through all the pictures, and then the, ticket, like I say, itself, is under dangerous buildings, which is an umbrella pretty much for all that stuff, so, and like I say, I'll have it done by tomorrow, probably at the latest, and then I just, like I say, turn it into the district court down here in Fenton on the Silver Parkway, and it gets assigned to the next court date, which is August 12th.
And then how long do they have to fix this? Because
Well, that's kind of up to the judge, and then, like, sometimes they just come in, sometimes they come in with an attorney.
well, they don't have money for an attorney, so they're not
Well,
gonna.
then, if it's just them, then, like I say, they get arraigned and it goes in front of the judge, and then the judge pretty much decides, you got 2 weeks, you got 10 days, you got 30 days.
Okay, because I don't wanna call you back out here, in the fall and be like, okay, nothing's done, so if it's like.
I understand, no, once it goes to court.
Because you've been out there numerous times.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. I'm gonna, Pat, if you don't mind, I'm gonna have Jack talk just for a second, and you can, if you wanna, stay up there, Chad, you can, but, can you address this in the process?
Not in a second, but I can.
All right. We'll give you a minute.
So, there's, what Pat is talking about, what Mr. Shaw is talking about is ordinance violation, where somebody gets a ticket, it's a misdemeanor, they could be sentenced up to 90 days in jail, up to $500 fine plus court costs, up to 2 years probation. Judge McCabe is real good about pursuing those things and forcing people to do things. I mean, even put one lady in jail for not complying. But that process, with all due respect to the court system, you can't control the court system. People get adjournments, they get lawyers, on and on. So the likelihood of it being resolved within a month or so is not great. And the person always has the right to have a trial by judge or by jury because it's a misdemeanor. Now, another option that's available, and if the board authorizes me to do it, and they may very well, is to start a circuit court action to demolish the house as a dangerous health hazard.
That's what needs to be done.
That's much more.
Because you can't get inside, the amount of black mold in that house is, it's terrible. So like, those spores are going somewhere, they're not
Okay,
staying in the house.
Can I finish what I'm saying?
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Thanks. So that process requires the filing of a complaint in circuit court, going before the judge, and depending what judge you get, we may or may not be able to get some immediate injunction. One of the things I would do that I try to do when I get those is get a court order to permit an inspection of the property, because you can't just go onto somebody's property.
Yeah.
So get a court order to permit the inspection of the property by the engineer, by the building inspector, by the code enforcement officer, maybe even somebody with some knowledge about health hazards. And then I can go back before the judge. Now, understand that, I can say all this in a matter of a few minutes, but that process may take 6 or 8 months. But at least that's a process that's available in addition to, not in place of, but in addition to the misdemeanor violation charge. And of course, the township can do this, and normally that's how it's done, although anybody can file that kind of a lawsuit, but normally it is the municipality that does that kind of condemnation, health hazard, dangerous structure.
Chad, what we will do is I will have Pat stay in touch with you and give you the direction that the township is planning to move. But he has been authorized in my meeting today. I made the decision to go ahead and have him start moving in that direction anyway.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay?
Is there anything that the township can do to put in place an ordinance to somehow, have something for abandoned homes? These two homes are abandoned. There's nobody living there. They've been abandoned for 20-some years, 10 years now, 20 years, 15 years for ours. Is there anything that the township can do ordinance-wise?
Well, Mike, if Mike was here, we talked about that in the meeting today.
He is here.
Oh,
Mike's right
Mike.
there. He's hiding.
He's hiding back there. No, I knew he was here. I'm gonna let him address that because in a previous position that he held in another municipality, it caused a lot of problems. And so, I'll let him address that.
So, the short answer is yes, right? The township could. The longer answer is that it's hard to enforce an ordinance at just a situation where you have a vacant, uninhabitable house that's been there for multiple years. When, in my previous position, we had a vacant home ordinance, which I don't believe they have anymore. But what happened was, anytime a house disconnected from sewer, disconnected from water, the building official put a sticker on their house, and based on the code that was being enforced, it was labeled uninhabitable, regardless of the condition of the house. Now, obviously, that caused issues, right? People trying to sell a house, realtors were not happy having a tag that said uninhabitable. Ultimately, what the goal of the ordinance was to do a property maintenance code inspection, right? Look at health, safety, welfare of the house. Be able to do a walkthrough of the house, and that tag was what granted that ability. At the end of the day, what you are looking for, right, are the minimum standards of the property maintenance code, the minimum standards of the building code. The amount of resources that are required are great, right, because you want to apply the ordinance fairly to all situations. We do not currently have a salaried full-time or even part-time building official. Our building official is part-time, but he is paid by inspection. And when you have an ordinance like this, you need to enforce it. We don't necessarily have the current manpower to enforce an ordinance properly like that. It doesn't mean we can't. It would require some additional research and put together a plan. But, at the bare minimum, right, we need a building inspector, right, that was working salaried to be able to address all these inspections that would have to occur, and have another building clerk. We're already really close to being maxed out with the staff that we have. And at the end of the day, I think you're looking at probably a handful of homes that if we were to properly enforce the property maintenance code, we wouldn't necessarily get to that situation where, unfortunately, I'm not fully aware of this specific situation, right? Sounds like it's been going on for a long time. I think that if we are a little bit more proactive in the property maintenance code, we would be able to address some of these situations. But the mosquito issues, I think those are definitely solvable through the property maintenance code that we are already enforcing. Quality of the house in and of itself, we don't necessarily have the ability to walk through the house, but if we identify issues, we write the tickets for them to address them. And if they're addressed, again, it's the minimum standards of the property maintenance code ordinance and building code, right? So, in certain communities, that's still not good enough. But I think there are a number of challenges to have a specific ordinance to deal with vacant homes. But it is something that we could look at.
I think we talked about it extensively today, that exact topic. And think about, I'll just give you just one example, and it's just mine personally. I built a second home, and my first home sat empty for a year. So there was nobody residing in the house, but it was on the lake, it was a nice home. I just decided to move into the new house before the other house sold. So what do? I mean, you have to apply it. So the ordinance would have to be well thought out. And again, I don't think we have the resources to do it, and I don't know the legal internalities of that either. I mean, if that's even.
You can't do that.
Okay, well, there you go. There's your answer. I guess I didn't need to.
With an abandoned home for 10 years sitting there with animals and
Well, that's a whole different thing, but you can't have a law that says you can't vacate your house. I mean, there's all these other laws and ordinances that address the issues, but you can't have an ordinance that says it's against the law. And that's what an ordinance is a law. You can't have an ordinance saying it's against the law to have an empty house.
What ordinances do we have in place that protect us as neighbors of this abandoned house? Like what can we contact you guys about or keep bringing up that's more than what we're doing now to get movement? Because I've lived there since 2000. You want me to stand up?
Yeah, if you don't mind, stand up there and
Sorry.
just state your name. No, that's fine.
My
And you
name's-
pull that mic down too if you'd like.
My name's April Zychek, and I live in Alpine Shores as well. I lived there since 2015. Those houses have been abandoned ever since. But what can we do as our community we have children, all of us have kids, grandkids, all through this area. They ride their bikes through there. It's even in front of one of the houses, it's so bad that I don't want my child going by there. There's garbage in the yard. They don't cut the grass. It's uncomfortable when I even have friends come by and they go in that direction. I'm like, yeah, they see the abandoned house. The people that live around them, it's a nuisance, but it's not safe. I have a 12-year-old daughter. Her friends are walking down the street asking questions. Like, I don't want them to get curious and go there because doors are broken. I've seen a window broken in one before. I've seen it boarded up, unboarded up. But what can we do as neighbors to bring this to the attention that something can be done? Because we keep talking ordinance, and I'm like a layperson. I don't know what terms to use or what the laws are. I just want to know what we need to do to make this come to a resolution of something happening other than us keep reporting it and nothing happen. Because they fix it for a minute, part of it. They'll fix it on the outset to just give enough leeway to where nobody's on their back about it, cutting the grass, but cutting your grass is not enough. And I get that not living there is not an option. Like, you can abandon your home and have it well maintained, or you can abandon your home and have it partially maintained. But on the exterior, when you have all of us in our community that are maintaining our homes and keeping the animals away and out and the rodents and the mosquitoes away, and then you have them, like you said, you're trying to group the whole community together. Those two houses are not part of our community right now. They're just not. They're not upholding their end of the. We also have some sort of HOA bylaws. Can we refer to any of that have been in place for a long time to reference?
This is within
They're not
the HOA?
enforceable? I was wondering that. I didn't know.
Well, you can amend.
Well,
but let Mr. Tucker address that.
Deed restrictions. Yeah, I don't know what they were. But I just want to know if there's suggestions that you can tell us that we can start building our case to say something needs to be done.
before we go any further, what's the second house? There's two houses?
There's two, yes.
Two
Okay.
So is the other one 13,368, and then the one we talked about with the foxes is 12,54?
Yes.
Are the pictures of both or one of them?
13,368 was written a dangerous building ticket last year. The roof was replaced, the windows were replaced. There was an overhang on the back deck that fell down, that was removed. Now the house needs some paint and stuff, but like so far as all broken windows and boarded up windows, that's all done. Now when this year started, I did have to send them a letter to remind them to cut the grass and keep the lawn and stuff up. When I was through there today, the grass was okay there today. So that's 13,368, but the 1254
This time.
It's on
There's a
Brooke
picture.
Road.
Yeah.
I got that picture. Brooke
Yeah.
Road.
I went through, but I did take all pictures throughout
Yeah,
the
it's on-
house today.
But it's like a constant, we're constantly trying to figure out something. We're trying to figure out how to make this a better situation in our community, and every time that we bring something to the attention of anybody, it's just the same thing. It's just putting a Band-Aid over it and never getting fixed. And again, I've been there since 2015. A lot of these people have been there for way longer years and have been dealing with it way before all of us that live there. But it's very cautionary, and it's ruining like the feel of the community when you're walking your dog and you're with your kids, and you keep every day that we go by it, it's just like what's happened? Why did it get to this point? Both
Well,
houses.
I can't speak for the past, but I can tell you that I think we instituted a meeting, bi-weekly meeting about 6 weeks ago, and all I can tell you is to stay vocal, stay loud.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Yell, whatever, scream, until Pat or somebody hears, because I can tell you we are taking it seriously. We met for almost 40 minutes today, I'd say, probably, on several issues. And we came to resolutions on every one of them, and one of them was the house, and I told Pat, move forward, whatever he needed to do to get it taken care of. So I'm not saying it's gonna change, because again, I don't know if we have to look at other options, but I can tell you right
So is
now,
there a
that
time-
going forward, it is gonna be taken seriously.
Okay, and other options when we're talking about this, I know this is like the first time in a while that we've had this come up, but other options, is this gonna be something that we come to another meeting for, or is it gonna be, is it us coming up with options, or are you guys gonna assist with trying to figure out resolutions for it, or are we left to our own, trying to figure it out ourselves? Because that's what we've been doing all this time, and we're not getting anywhere.
Oh, Julia, I'm sorry, our assessor, Julie Wilson, is on. Julie, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, if I can, just for a minute, I think, and I understand these people are going through, I have been out to the house and done a thorough field investigation on this, along with some other issues that deal with my department directly. However, I think what some of their frustration is that in the past, it was basically a blight issue, which was taking care of the lawn, and when they took care of the lawn, then things closed. I think what these residents should be more aware of or heightened of, and I don't know the other end of it, but when it becomes a health, safety, and welfare issue and not just a blight issue, that's when it becomes more important, and I think it's finally gotten to that point where I think it's past a blight issue and we've been made more aware of the health, safety, and welfare issues that this house is causing at this point, and not just mowing the lawn. And I think the board, with our meeting today, we, like Vince said, we had a thorough talk about that as well as some other things, and strictly moving forward on this based on field reviews and complaints of the residents for this year, and deeming it a health, safety, and welfare issue with some of the information that we have found out more in detail in the last 2 months that I've been made aware of, and not just assuming things. We have to make sure that the facts are in place before we assume things, and I think we're at this point we've gotten more facts than assumptions, and we are moving forward on that.
I really appreciate all of you hearing us out and like taking this seriously. Like it's time.
We work for you.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do, but thank you for hearing us.
I understand that Pat's got his hands are tied as far as code enforcement goes. He can only do so much. They won't let him in the house. He can't do anything about that. That's what we're trying to get resolved into the health issues, as it would be condemned in 5 minutes if he was allowed in the house.
Yeah, 'cause I have video of the raccoons trying to get out of the soffit, and they've been in there for 3 years, so they're up there defecating, using the whole thing, so I have the video of them trying to get out, fight to get out.
And
They're in that soffit up, so
She hired a painter for the basement. He came over, someone dropped him off to paint. He went in the house, he come over and said, I left my cell phone in the car, can I use your cell phone, because I'm not going in there.
Well, and we live on the other side. Chad lives on one side, we live on the other side of this house. We have to set traps on the outside of our house for the mice and everything else. We have mice in our house. We have an exterminator that has to come over and do extermination and everything else because of everything that's right next door.
I have the same
And we're
exterminator.
tired of it, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, we've been telling people all of this for a very long time.
Well-
And that's why we say, I mean, anything that can be helped, and like we said, ordinances we need to have. I know, Frank and Cindy, live right across the street from there. They've never, in 15 years, we haven't seen the front door of this house, cause there's so much stuff that has grown up over everything.
You mean
The trees
boxes?
are overgrown, there's 2 dead trees in their yard, and we asked them, you know, what do we do if there's a storm, that tree falls on my house, it's my insurance that has to pay for it, when they've known for 10 years this tree has been dead. So, you know, I mean, it's not just all the animals and everything that are running around there, it's just everything about that house is a hazard to all of us.
Well, I can promise you,
Killing squirrels or killing the rabbits in the neighborhood. I just found dead squirrel and a rabbit in my backyard from the foxes that were killing.
I had a possum and a squirrel on my deck. So they're on my deck, so.
And they defecate everywhere.
Can't even go in the front yard. My kids can't even play out there because of the amount of poop out there from the fox poop.
well, that's something that I don't think we'd ever be in a position to do anything with. I mean, you know, when you live on a lake, I hate to say it, but the geese love my lawn. Not so much
Yeah,
now,
the geese
but
aren't
they
gonna
do
eat
love
your-
my lawn.
The
And
geese aren't gonna eat your dog though, that's the thing.
yeah, that's
You
true.
know?
Well, all I can tell you, is that your voices have been heard. We did have a meeting, we were in that meeting, and we think we have a plan of attack, Pat. And Pat is going to be moving forward, and that includes engaging our township attorney, and, it is being taken serious, so that's, I guess.
Sorry, I just want to point, sir, I'm new to
Do you
the-
mind going up to the podium? Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Peter Jennings. I'm new to the neighborhood. I live on the street on Pomona Drive, and I know one of the houses in particular that it's kitty corner to us, but I think it may behoove us, and I know none of you probably live in that area, but you should drive by. You really should drive by those houses and look at them. But I did hear it earlier about an ordinance that you're not sure about how difficult it is. Can we go out and benchmark ordinances from other townships? I'm sure other areas have enforced this kind of ordinance, you know, or standards. I know it's very difficult, but benchmarking, you know, can you reach out to your counterparts in other townships and see how they've enforced a similar type of ordinance? Because if you live next door to these or very near, you'd see what's going on. Someone's going to get hurt, and there's a lot of young children, young kids playing around. They fool around, and we know they shouldn't be on some of these properties, but someone's going to get hurt. And they're going to get pretty seriously hurt, whether it may be an infection or a serious fall or on that property. And I know that will come back possibly to this township. You know, just some thoughts for consideration.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I just want to say I live on Lake Valley, so I'm not directly next to these homes, but even just walking past them, again, like everybody else said, is horrible. Everybody sees it, but I'm not coming to you actually as a neighbor, but more as a realtor in the area. It's very frustrating when you're trying to sell a home and everybody says, well, I love this house, but look at that house. You know what I mean? And I know, you know, we pay high taxes to live here, right? Because it's a great area, but it is really hard to sell your house when you have that next door or across the street. So I am thankful that hasn't come onto Lake Valley yet, but obviously it could. So it is frustrating, obviously, and hopefully you guys can do something about it, or we can help do something about it. But I mean, our values are still good in there. We have enough people that do keep their houses up, but I mean, obviously those 2 houses are not helping. Plus, I also fear about a kid climbing on a deck and it falling through, or I mean, the one had a hot tub on the back of it. I don't know if it was taken down. The last time I was back there was a deck with a hot tub falling through. So, I don't know. I'm sure you have pictures of that, but thank you for whatever you guys are going to help us with.
Thank you.
Can we please get your name for the record?
Shauna Meisner.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board on any agenda or non-agenda items?
Yes.
Is there a best like email address or phone number that they should send like any pictures or video to? I mean, I'm just thinking if it
They
eventually
can
comes
certainly
to.
send them to me, they can send them to Mike, they can send them to Pat.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we wanted to pick
I
one,
just
but-
blanket them.
Okay.
Realistically, just info at Fenton Township.
Yeah, just info at
That
fentontownship.org
gets to all
is
of
probably
us.
best.
And do you want maybe something specific in the subject line, just to make sure we're paying more attention to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So just,
Keep in mind,
maybe the address.
please, that Supervisor Lorraine took the initiative to get Mr. Shaw started on a process, and I won't blame the legal system, because Duncan will hit me. It's a slow process, so let's see if we can, as Mr. Lorraine is trying, to keep the process going.
You have been heard, and
Thank
again,
you. Thank
and
you.
a lot of that is the team, you know, bringing all these issues to our meetings, and we are addressing them one by one. And we're actually not leaving the room without making a decision on the direction which we're moving. So that's one of the things in the meeting that I think all of us agree, I would hope you would all agree with, that we all look around the room, we make a decision, and that decision goes forward. So we are taking very seriously what you're talking about, and we'll move in whatever direction we have to. And again, I can't promise anything, but Pat has been directed to do what he needs to do. Anybody else that's here in the audience that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items? Hearing none, we'll move to Zoom. Is there anyone attending via Zoom tonight that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items? You will have to unmute. All right.
it looked like there was a chat message maybe in the Zoom.
He was just thanking you guys for your effort.
Oh, okay. I couldn't see it. Apologize. Any other questions from the board? All right. I'll tell you what, it's now 7:58, and if there's nothing else, I say goodnight and the meeting's adjourned. Thank you all for coming.